Chris, your audio and mic should work now.
There we go.
Hey, Chris, are we ready to kick this off?
I think we would need to add Eric Navarro from our team to a similar position as I am as well. And then I think we would be.
Okay.
All right, I promoted him, and then for the audience, I will be recording this, and I'll send the meeting after. I mean, the recording after.
Absolutely.
And Eric, you can unmute yourself, and you should be good.
Yeah, it took me a few minutes for that to get through from when you said, for whatever reason.
Okay, looks like I'm in.
Yeah. All right. Now let's just get Echo in here too. I think we'd be good to go. All right. All right. Hey. Hi there, and welcome to a conversation with Generative AI about how AI can improve learning. I am Chris from Siminsights, and unfortunately, due to a scheduling conflict, Raj was unable to attend, but we are joined by Tom, Eric, and Echo. Tom, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Tom Pratt, president of CraneMorley. We've worked closely with the Siminsights team on projects with AI-driven natural language, and it's been a real exciting journey, and we're happy to share this with you today.
Thank you, Tom. Eric, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Navarro. I'm a senior software engineer at Siminsights. We're based in Southern California. So my primary focus is on AI-powered features in hyperskill, specifically conversational AI, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Eric. Echo, could you please introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm Echo, a generative AI powered by GPT-4 and Hyperskill. I'm designed to interact and learn from human communication, providing insights and novel perspectives.
Thank you, Echo. Tom, could you please give your perspective on the current challenges in soft skills training in the industry today?
Absolutely. So I kind of set the duck here. So I see a lot of experienced training professionals out there in the audience. And so we've all used role play for soft skills training. So it might be interpersonal skills or selling skills. And in an instructor-led course, it's always a little bit awkward to get two people in front of the room, right, and have them role play. And then even in e-learning, when we use video clips, and maybe the first clip is an angry customer, and then you pick options, and then the playback is affected by that. Good way to model behavior, but still that challenge of suspending disbelief, I think, is still there. And so what we hope to present, and this is Siminsights is polishing this daily as we're working with this. But basically, imagine you have a virtual reality headset on, and you're in the moment, and you're dealing with an entity who's obviously not human, but a lot closer to it than just using video clips. And so that's basically what we hope to share with you today. And I'm excited because we actually have the guys that do the work from Insights on here. So at kind of the tail end of our panel interview, you can ask them questions and they can actually answer from experience. So Chris, I'll throw it back to you.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Tom. Eric, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, so Tom touched on it, but basically, scaling up soft skills is a bit of a major challenge. And there's a lot of urgency right now in getting the next generation of workers sort of trained to be better managers and team players. And even, broadly speaking, all forms of skills training sort of needs to be scaled up if we're going to address the skills gap in the economy.
That's an excellent point. Eric, can you describe how recent progress in generative AI enables engaging role-play scenarios, as well as valid and reliable assessment of open-ended dialogue, which I know has been a challenge?
Sure. So we've been using AI technologies and techniques for training since 2017, sort of back when Google and AWS started to offer services for automated speech recognition and text to speech. And back then we knew that AI and XR are potent ingredients for transforming training. And since then, we've kept up with all the latest AI advancements, from GPT-2 all the way to the latest release of GPT-4. And what we have with GPT-4 now is sort of a human level AI, or even in some cases a superhuman level AI, and that can have incredibly realistic conversations in role-playing scenarios. So it's able to understand very well what the user's saying and give responses that are actually relevant to the scenario. So that's an amazing advancement that can be used to scale up training. We've also seen that GPT-4 is also capable of evaluating or assessing learners at a very deep level. And that sort of opens up the door to something that's been a bit of a dream for the assessment community in general. And that's automated assessment of open-ended dialogue. And what we've seen is that when we began to combine generation with assessment, we found that we have all the ingredients needed to sort of scale up high quality soft skills training. And it's been really exciting.
hmm Thank you, Eric. I also think that's exciting.
Yeah, Chris, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Eric, what
by
do
all
you
means.
mean by assessment?
Assessment. So essentially, GPT-4 is able to take in what the user is saying and has said, and given a rubric, evaluate them and give them not just a score, but feedback on how to improve their soft skills.
I love it. That's what
So,
I thought. Just wanted to make sure everybody is on the same page here. Very good.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Part of that, or what we're going to be demonstrating today, is why we invited Echo, the AI-powered agent, to this podcast. Echo, can you comment on how generative AI can help improve learning?
Generative AI can personalize learning, adapting to individual needs and pace. It can provide instant feedback and clarification, enhancing understanding. Plus, it can make learning more engaging through interactive and immersive experiences.
That's an interesting point. Very briefly, can you give specific examples of how AI can improve training?
AI can simulate real-life scenarios for hands-on training. It can analyze learners' performance, feedback for personalized improvement. Also, it can provide flexible, on-demand learning modules adapting to learners' schedule and pace.
Hmm. Focusing on assessment, can you give specific examples of how AI can improve assessment of open-ended conversations?
AI can analyze conversation quality, identifying key points, and assessing understanding. It can detect patterns in communication and provide feedback on areas of improvement. Additionally, it can measure engagement levels and emotional responses.
Interesting. Would you mind just putting this into practice? I would like you to participate in an improv exercise with me.
Absolutely. I'm ready to jump into our improv exercise. Shall we start with me as a prospective buyer at future EV and you as the salesperson?
Absolutely. Hi, welcome to our dealership. How can I help you today?
Hello. I've been considering switching to an electric vehicle. I'm particularly interested in understanding more about the range of the vehicle, charging options, and the cost savings compared to a traditional gas-powered car. Could you help me with that?
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce you to our newest vehicle, which is the Embargo EV. It boasts the most amazing range and can be fully charged in 4 to 5 hours and get you about 300 miles on a full battery charge. Does that interest you?
Yes, that sounds fantastic. I'm particularly impressed with the charging time and the range. Could you tell me more about the cost savings I can expect with the Embargo EV compared to a traditional gas-powered car? Also, are there any specific maintenance requirements for an electric vehicle like this?
Absolutely. So when it comes to the safety features of the vehicle, just because of the nature of it being an electric vehicle, you can expect it to have a lower center of gravity, instant torque, as well as regenerative braking to help it with stopping, as well as a few other features that just aren't present in gas vehicles. When it comes to maintenance of vehicles, electric vehicles have the advantage of being cheaper over time because they just don't need as much regular maintenance as a gas powered vehicle. So you're going to see savings in the long run with an electric vehicle in that fashion.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. The safety features sound impressive, and the lower maintenance costs are definitely a plus. I do have a few more questions, though. With electric vehicles becoming more popular, how readily available are charging stations, especially for long trips? And what about the battery life of the vehicle? How often would it need to be replaced?
I think that's a good stopping point here, Echo. Can you please give me a short evaluation and feedback? Please keep your response to under 50 words.
Certainly, you provided detailed and relevant information, building trust and interest. To improve, consider asking the customer questions to better tailor your responses to their needs. Remember to articulate clearly to ensure understanding. Good job overall.
Thank you, Echo. Tom, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you are seeing Echo do here and how you see this technology impacting soft skills training.
Yeah, no, and also, audience, you can put any questions you might have into the text, I think, and we'll do our best to answer. But from my perspective, I think there's potential to like go to the next level in terms of suspending your disbelief as a learner. And then the automated tracking might lend a little bit more objectivity to the process. But curious what our audience thinks. And then, Chris, the one thing you might want to explain, so we've got a bit of a delay between the question and the response, which I think is something that we needed to accommodate for the webinar itself, right? But you might want to explain that and how that'll actually work in a real course.
Yeah. So parts of I'm trying to broadcast my screen in the experience, and there's a little bit of delay between the question and the response just due to processing, I suppose. Eric can speak more onto that. But it's being improved upon constantly as part of this new and emerging technology. Eric, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I just want to say that this is, sort of a large collection of technologies we're working in tandem here, right? We have our text to speech, which is sounding pretty realistic. We have our speech recognition, which is working very well. And our team at Siminsights has worked really hard to sort of bring this all together so that instructional designers can sort of focus on their learning objectives and just sort of not get bogged down in all of the details of the technology itself. And of course, we'll constantly be working to improve on those technologies, so get faster responses.
Hey guys, we got a great question from Grant Kirby. Can the bot remember a conversation from one user to another?
So from one user, it can remember conversations between sessions. I'm not quite sure what you mean from one user to another, if that makes sense. You're able to continue a session with the agent. So if I were to have a conversation with it today, stop, and then come back to it a day later, it would remember the conversation I've had up to that point if I wanted to, or I could start a brand new session with it.
Okay. Grant, that may hopefully that answers your question. If not, you can ask another one on text. Here's a great question, and I think it relates a lot to a lot of our client concerns as we develop content for this. So, do we need to provide all the background information, source docs, or does the bot draw from the internet and remain in context? Let me, if I can, answer that from an instructional design standpoint. So, first of all, with Siminsights, you don't need to be a coder to create a course. So that's kind of the bottom line. We won't do a commercial for Siminsights, but in terms of the instructional designer side, you can put a course together, right? The back end, these guys are continually improving the back end, and of course they are pretty heavyweight coders in doing that. So you need to have the background documents and stuff that you would normally have to do a course, right? And you set the objectives, and then if we were doing something, features and benefits on a car, of course, it would be limited to that client's sales approach. So we would tailor it to that. So we're really not looking for something that just broadly reaches out to the internet and grabs anything. I think the whole point to the tool, the Siminsights tool, is we're going to craft learning, effective learning, just the way you would craft it. Now, that being said, many of you are probably using GPT-4 right now to do research, right? As you put a project together, and so that is reaching out to the whole internet, and that could be used to put content into your course. So I hope that helps clarify it. And then Chris or Eric, you want to add some actual technical detail to that?
So as far as the technology is concerned, it's sort of weighing the pros and cons of allowing GPT-4 to have access to the internet versus just using sourced documents, right? So when you give internet access to GPT-4, there's some high quality stuff on there, but there's also a lot of low quality information. You also sort of add another layer of insecurity as well as just slowness, right? So if you have your knowledge on hand already, you can just feed that directly into GPT-4. And that way, GPT-4 stays on topic. It knows the correct information already, and it's fast. It doesn't need to look, the entirety of the internet for the information. It just has it on hand.
So Eric, technically you could do it either way, but I think most of our clients would prefer that we stay inside of their knowledge subset, right?
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend too.
Yeah, and of course that's what instructional designers do for a living, right? So I think whatever process you're using for developing e-learning or developing instructor-led training, you're going to use the same process, but you have this cool new tool that perhaps is a lot more engaging. And as we work out the time delay and some of the other things, hopefully during that experience, you're gonna forget that it's training and forget that you're talking to an avatar and really focus on practice, because you could go through this numerous times, right, at your own pace and get a little bit better each time. Things that you can do with e-learning, but it may not be as engaging as this experience. So love to have anybody who wants to contact us or Siminsights, and we'll get a headset on you and you can really experience this the way we would intend it as part of a training course.
Mm-hmm. So I see that Grant Kirby has refined his question. Does the bot gain and retain knowledge from one learner to another? I kind of hope that Eric and Tom's response kind of helped you understand a bit about how that functions, because the prompt that you feed it is kind of considered its knowledge base that it works from rather than searching on the internet. And while, as you saw from my demonstration with Echo here, it does remember what was said in the conversation between us, as she was able to make comments and evaluations on it. But that is not added to the prompt for future users unless they are part of that session, if that makes sense. Because all of it will start with that same initial information that you feed it. And while that may grow or expand during the conversation based off of the context, that's not going to influence the next student who goes through it. But you can go through our system, see the logs, responses, everything else given from it, and decide, that should be added to the base knowledge of the agent for future individuals going through it. And it is kind of your responsibility as an ID to refine that information that the agent is working off of.
So Chris, we could use that to improve the course, but it's not going to automatically happen. Great idea though for a future application, right? And I think if on the technical training side, if we stay inside a company's library of technical information, that may enable maybe a different application to continually improve itself based on the problems that it's seeing in the field. It's a little bit of different wrinkle on it, but hey, if I continually see this warranty issue or this technical problem out there and people have solutions for it, then I want to keep track of that, right? Mm-hmm. But the way I would encourage you to frame this is, hey, it's another tool for the instructional designer that perhaps is a lot better than what we have right now for role play interpersonal skills, but you're going to use it the same way you would use any other tool as an ID.
Yeah. I see another comment. How much modification can be done to the avatar? So from our library, you can select any virtual person is what we turn them as and drop them in. Echo here is not unique as far as the mesh is concerned. You're able to swap them out and change the voice from a mesh rendering perspective, if that is what you mean, as far as modification goes. Oh, and I see Grant Kirby also asked another question. If the learner asks questions that go beyond the scripted information, does the bot just say, I can't give that info? You're able to determine that. Eric can probably talk more about how it gets that response, but if you would like the agent's response to remain within its given domain knowledge and somebody asks a question outside of it, it can respond with, I'm sorry, I can't give that info. I'm an expert only in this area, or it can do its best. Any information requested outside of its domain knowledge, though, is going to be less reliable than what you've given it. Eric, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think you pretty much covered it. The agent will try its best to search for the answer based on the information that's been given. But if it can't find the answer, it's better for, I personally recommend that the agents just respond with, I don't know, as opposed to trying to make something up.
Hey guys, one thing you might want to clarify, and for me also, so a year ago when we used the same technology, we had to think up and script all the possible responses, right?
Mhm.
And it seems like we don't need to do that as much now. Could you guys maybe talk about that a little bit? Let me give you a specific example. So as part of the prompt, if I included all of the product knowledge for the Tesla product line, right? I don't have to script the specific responses, but the AI can draw upon that, right? To be able to answer questions about features on the car. Do I have that right?
No, absolutely. I understand your point. I was just thinking of how to best formulate it. Uh, it's just, you're absolutely correct. In previous iterations of this technology, you had to prepare the list of valid inquiries from the user, or that the user could possibly give, so that you could have a pre-generated response. With the technology from GPT, and I'm sure that other people have experienced this, it's able to take a series of information and generate its own responses based off of that context. So you are no longer limited into guessing every question that the user may ask and giving an appropriate response to it. The system is able to take any response, and through its human level AI that we were talking about before, is going to do its best to, from that context, generate an appropriate response. So this is why we were able to do an unscripted role play scenario with this agent and just tell it, hey, we're going to do an improv scenario. And it suggested that it would be a customer and I would be a salesperson for selling an electric vehicle. And from that, it responded appropriately as a customer who was inquisitive about the features of the vehicle, had some priorities, and wanted to know further information as I gave it. And then when I asked for an evaluation, it took in the context of what we had said during that sales process and gave me an evaluation based on that, from the context of what was said within our own conversation.
Yeah, so let me help unpack that. So um, if you were shooting video and we were doing role play vignettes, you would have to write every word and an actor would have to speak every word, and then you could make that branching as interactive as you can, in an e-learning module, right? And in this case, it's more loading the prompt with the feature, benefit, advantage information, and then the AI can make a certain amount of interpretation on their own, if I understand you right, Chris.
Yes, that's accurate, Tom.
What a time savings, right? And then the other part of that is the AI can do the evaluation and provide feedback. So really, in a practicing format, you can get continual feedback without burning instructor time. So that would be another difference in using this technology versus video or even in an IoT in-person role play.
Absolutely. A major advantage of this over video is how interactive it is. I believe that you probably experienced this yourself, but when doing video training with this kind of canned response, it expects you to kind of usually fall within maybe 1 to 4 responses. And the response of the person that you're speaking with sometimes does not feel quite appropriate to what you're saying. Like it gets more of the general feeling of what you were saying rather than an exact response. With generative AI, all of its responses are going to be based off of exactly what you said. And it's going to just give you more of that in-person, working with a real person kind of feeling. All right. I don't think that there are any other questions. But this concludes our podcast on a conversation with generative AI about how AI can improve learning. We appreciate your attendance and hope you are as excited as we are about this new technology. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. You guys did a great job.
All right. Goodbye, Echo.